Getting to know Vicbred, Vicbred Platinum and Vicbred Pure. Catching up with Nick Hooper from Harnsbury's, Victoria. Nick, firstly, welcome.
Thank you, nice to be here.
Sales start, the Nutrien Equine sales start next April 1, 2 and 3. A lot of horses are going to be eligible. A lot of horses have got different eligibilities, if you like, down the bottom of their catalogue. And I want to break down the barriers so people can understand, one, what they're buying, and then two, what they're actually eligible for going forward, not just their first year of racing, but basically for the life of the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone's been used to the Vicbred first win bonus. It's been $7,000 and all of our racing stock now are in that category. But this group going through the yearling sales are our first bunch that have now got the differentiated first win bonuses, elevated above the 7, so everyone's a winner. If you're buying a Vicbred horse, you're getting more than what you're used to getting. But it is important that people understand that, and the catalogue has that information, and we can talk about that in a second. But also people should keep an eye out for any Vicbred eligible horse at the sale, whether it be at the parade or on the sale day. They're going to have an extra hip sticker that's going to make it very clear as to what their eligibility is.
In the catalogue, I'm going to put the tiles up as well, but in the catalogue it's about half a dozen pages in, or maybe a touch more. Basically, it pays to be Vicbred. It's blue. Nick's going to do the right thing here, and it'll be that page there.
Yep.
Down on this page with the foal underneath it there, Nick, it's got V8, V9 and V12. Effectively, what do they mean, mate?
Okay, so they're the three different categories. So if your horse is V8, it's the yellow sticker. That means what we're calling Vicbred Basic. So quite possibly it's a mare inseminated outside Victoria, or to a Victorian stallion perhaps. Because to be V9, which is the Vicbred Platinum, then the mare will have been bred in Victoria and foaled down in Victoria. That's the qualification for Vicbred Platinum. Nothing changes there. That's the way it's been now for a number of years. When you see
effectively the old, I'm going to get into trouble for saying this, but the old Vicbred, if you like.
That's right. What everyone should be used to. That's right. So V8 and V9 are largely the old Vicbred in the main. So instead of the 8 and the 9, what do they refer to? An $8,000 first win bonus and a $9,000 first win bonus. So when you're having a look at your, the yearling that you're potentially going to buy, and you're having a look at the eligibility at the bottom of the page, then that will probably tell you whether it's Vicbred, Vicbred Platinum, or the new category we'll talk about in a sec, Vicbred Pure. And the way they've done it this year, probably to avoid confusion, is they've listed all three of them so that no one's in any doubt that if all three are listed, then you know that the yearling is Vicbred Pure. If it's Vicbred and Vicbred Platinum, you know that it's eligible for Platinum. If it just says Vicbred, then you know that that's just going to be the $8,000 first win bonus. And that's going to be reflected in the hip stickers that the horses will be carrying, and they will look like the oval shapes at the bottom of that page.
There was a couple at Sydney, and I'm pretty sure there was a couple in Queensland as well that had those stickers on, and we want to make sure that they can see them. This year, again, first year, people have seen them. But hopefully 2-3 years down the track, it becomes easily, people see it and they say, right now I know that horse is eligible for a $12,000 bonus. Okay, it's Vicbred, it's only got the minor bonus, but it doesn't discourage from the horse and its value, because it might have other eligibilities there that people aren't aware of.
That's exactly right. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for sellers and buyers, working with Nutrien and Harness Racing Victoria to make it as easy and as visual and simple as possible for people to understand what the yearling is going to be eligible for. Because ultimately, if the yearling is Vicbred Pure, then $12,000 first win bonus. If you happen to win that race in a Vicbred Platinum maiden worth $10,000, then you're looking at the best part of $20,000 as you take home from your first win a couple of years down the track.
And you just said a couple of things. One thing I just want to clarify, we are talking pacers and trotters here as well, because I've done a lot with the trotters just recently. They are the same. They have the same eligibilities. Obviously, they can't race in the pacing race and vice versa. But that it's the same. It doesn't matter if they're a trotter or a pacer.
Correct.
The V part is still the same.
That's right. So Vicbred Pure, that's a new category that people need to get used to. I'm sure a lot of people watching this will have already heard bits and pieces. But to be Vicbred Pure, that it means that not only was the mare inseminated in Victoria, foaled down in Victoria, but was by the yearling is by a stallion who was bred in Australasia and stands in Victoria. So a couple of examples. On the pacing side, Soho Tribeca as an example from Lower Long Farms. On the trotting side, Sky Valley at Aldebaran Park are just a couple of examples. And of the 300 yearlings that are in the sale next weekend, 46 of them are Vicbred Pure eligible. So you've basically got a nice bunch of horses that if you want to aim for that $12,000 first win bonus and you like your Poster Boys or your Sky Valleys, then there's a decent little carrot hanging off the end of it.
People might look at it initially and they're going to say, well, there's not a lot of these pure horses. But the idea from Harness Breeders Victoria, Harness Racing Victoria and all other bodies is to grow our product and almost make it so that we can be self-sufficient, if you like, without the product that we put up.
That's right. Our locally bred stallions, when they've gone to stud, not too many of them have had overly successful careers. It's very difficult for them to compete against the very best stallions in the world, and so it should be. We want access to the best bloodlines around, but what we're saying here with Harness Racing Victoria is we want our best sons to have the best chance possible of being successful stallions, because that means that the economics work well for the industry. More money stays here in the industry. The colts become more valuable if they can have value. Exactly right. That's right. So that's what this is all about. So people might say, why the differentiation? Ultimately, we're trying to, with the V9, we're trying to just say, well, breed your mare in Victoria, you get a little bit extra. So we're trying to encourage that. And if you like the look of a Poster Boy or a Sky Valley or the like, then there's something else in there for you. So hopefully that means that when people are getting a return on investment that makes sense, then they're prepared to invest again.
Yeah, and we've got to say too, from the top, the last season it was $7,000. Well, sorry, this season still be $7,000, but next year it's all up at least $1,000.
Yeah,
$2,000, and then
that's right,
and going from there, which that is in itself is a positive for the industry.
That's right, and that sort of growth is important, and as the budget allows, I mean, we'll be advocating as years go by for that to further increase. And I'm sure that HRV, if the money is there in the budget, that they'll give it due consideration, because these things I think are important. Whether you're a breeder who sells at the yearling sales or whether you're a breeder who breeds to race your own, being able to get a return on investment is so critical.
I sort of know the answer to this with your president's hat on from the breeding point of view. Have the studs got back to you and said, well, this does work, that some of these horses, you said there before about Tribeca and Poster Boy, and I do know their numbers. I mean, Sky Valley's just been a marvel for as long as he has, so he actually you get this added bonus, if you like, with Sky Valley. But have you seen a return to breeding numbers being up for those sort of horses?
Yes is the short answer. Yeah. I think when this all got fully announced a year or two ago, we did see some behavioural change with breeders sending their mares to eligible stallions. I had anecdotally a couple of people say they had mares they weren't going to breed, and they said, well, I can go to the Storm Inside for $2,500 and then have this sort of return eligibility. So we did see some of that evidence. Now, the proof will be in the pudding as this beds down and goes on, and people actually start to see the end results as these horses hit the racetrack, and people start to see the money rolling in. At the end of the day, these stallions are still going to have to stand on their own 2 feet. If they're not producing winners, then people won't go back to them. But by getting decent books, which they have been, like I know that Brett at Alabar and Kath at Lower Farms have said their eligible stallions have had good books off the back of this sort of stuff. So it gives them a chance to be successful.
You look at them a little bit differently too, I think, now, knowing that the Storm Inside was one that I saw quite a few of the draft at Bathurst the other day. Lovely types, up and going racy types. I know there's a big draft of Poster Boys going through the Soho. Tribecas have already been there in Melbourne. People are going to be looking at them. I tell you what, go and look, and then have a look at that V12 sitting wrong side of them too. It's going to excite you, I know that.
Yep. And look, part of this, and again, how successful this will be, we'll get a feel for it, in a week's time, and then next year, and so on and so forth. But it's also trying to encourage a different type of buyer, a buyer who might say, well, okay, the locally bred stallions, their averages, maybe they're not as high as a Captain Crunch or a Captain Treacherous or one of Pat's trotters. But so the return on investment can be stronger. And so from a breeding perspective, if buyers all of a sudden start saying, I like this product, it means that our breeders get a return on investment, and then hopefully the new owners get a return on investment. So that's the theory. That's what we're aiming at. Whether it ends up being successful, time will tell.
You said there before about a horse that maybe Vicbred Pure gets a $12,000 bonus, wins a Vicbred Platinum race. That's the other kickback. You get these bonuses, but there's also going to be races marketed purely around these horses, and going forward, I would imagine, to encourage these sorts of horses to get more bonuses going forward later on.
That's right. At the moment, there are no Vicbred Pure only races, so those horses will race in the Vicbred Platinum races. The homegrown series is a good example. The 3-year-old trotters have got their finals on tonight. We're recording this on the Saturday, obviously. Phone off. Yeah, that's right. The phone rings, working beautifully. Probably Catherine, you have to correct me on something that I said. I know we're not going live, but she would just know.
We had to be serious, remember? We've been going good for so long.
Okay, very good. So there are no Vicbred Pure races at the moment, and that's something that maybe that will change as we see the number of horses that come through. There's not the critical mass at the moment to create those races, but any horses Vicbred Pure eligible can go in the Vicbred Platinum eligible races. So Vicbred Pure, in simple terms, is a subset of Vicbred Platinum.
Yep, and it has the option of building with this draft or going forward, but it augurs well for two. One, if you're buying at the Nutrien sales this weekend, which this will go out on Sunday night, so it's April 1, 2 and 3, they'll be there. So if you buy a horse with a V12 on it, you can win a race in Victoria, you're going to get $12,000 back. If you're lucky enough, as you said, to win a platinum race, $10,000 or more race,
yep.
And go from there. Heaven forbid you won the homegrown final as your first race. Well, that's a huge return. But that's what we want to encourage. We want people to be aware that these bonuses are there, and it is a first win bonus, and away they go.
Yep. And the Vicbred Platinum Maidens were HRV have done a great job there. We advocated that with them a bit over a year ago to put those races on. $10,000. They've been extremely popular. And quite often there have been enough nominations for the race to be split, and HRV have done the right thing and put on 2 of them. And so I don't know the exact number at last count, but it's somewhere in the order of 60 or 70 Vicbred Platinum Maidens for 10 grand have been run over the last couple of years each season. And okay, amongst a season of many races, that's only a small proportion, but you've got that maiden, it just really gives you something to aim at, and HRV have done the right thing by duplicating the races where the noms have been strong.
And the way the racing calendar works nowadays too, with it being so back-ended, I'm sure a lot of these races will be at the front end, encouraging people to potentially miss those high-class horses if you like, and you can dodge them now with these platinum races and still take home a good purse.
That's right. And, and they do run them at 2, 3 and 4-year-old age groups, and quite often the 4-year-olds, those that have been maybe had a later start to their career or have matured a little later, they've still got these very handy bonuses up their sleeve. And so, look, we're excited about it. We'll be having Humbletonian Day once again at the end of the year in December.
That hold a whole different carrot maybe for some of those fields.
Absolutely. I mean, the end of next year when the first lot starts coming through, there's going to be some huge stories when you do genuinely see on that day some of the 2-year-olds, and then the following year they'll be 3-year-olds coming through, and I can imagine Lockie McIntosh there at Maryborough saying the 3s, got a check waiting for them at 20 grand if they can win the race. That's the looks on people's faces is absolutely priceless when they win on Humbletonian Day. We love it. We love seeing that joy and people getting a return on investment.
And that's what we want. And we want people to be aware that it's a great industry, it's a fun industry, and it is an industry you can make money, and you don't have to spend a fortune to do that. We encourage people to go and buy big. We want big investment in our industry, but at the same time, we want people to be able to go to the sales, look at horses that are on a world stage as well. We mentioned Saw Him Inside. I think he went 150. I'm going to be in trouble from Brett, but I think it was 50 or 51 around Swan Hill one night. Poster Boy, he's got that American bloodline. So these horses stand the test of time against those, and against Sky Valley. Go back to the trotters, the job that he has done. How many Group 1 winners he's left going forward. And the part that I like the most, some of this draft, the colts that I've seen, both gates, both sexes, how am I going? Both gates, they turn around. Keeping them as colts, and when they could be in the breeding barn at some of these places, the flow-on effect is enormous. Hopefully we can get some more studs opening up, the industry keeps it growing, and that's one of the great things I think about this. It's encouraging growth.
Absolutely. It's look, most of the boys in this sale, they'll end up being gelded. We know that, but if this can just encourage a few more to be kept entire for that little bit longer, because all of a sudden, if they do fulfil the promise that's on their pedigree page on the racetrack and they've got a future at stud, it just means that these horses, it's only small percentages, but they have that residual value. So I'm not going to begrudge anyone gelding their yearling, because they've got to look after themselves and be safe. But yes, if some want to keep them entire, then hopefully, in those small percentages, there'll be a return from someone.
Absolutely. As I said, April 1 through to 3, Nutrien Equine. Go to nutrienequine.com.au. Please make sure you get yourself hooked up with your credit. And people say, credit, I don't want credit, I want to pay on the day. Still give Gemma Smallman or the team at Nutrien a call, because it is different to how we used to do things. We need people to be understanding it. You can pay on the day, you can ask for credit. There are two different ways you can do it, but you must contact the team. Don't leave it to sales day, because it can get messy, it can get hard, and everyone can get busy. So please go to nutrienequine.com.au. Gemma Smallman's name will be on the bottom. Nick Hooper, HBV, well done for what you guys are doing. Thank you for not resting on your laurels either. I know there's going to be more going on. You could see the flow-on effect. I could see 4 or 5 years down the track, some fast-class pure races and things along those lines, which will be super exciting. You know, complement the Vicbreds and when they're coming through as well. So there's a lot of excitement around that.
Well, the sky's the limit. We want to keep growing the Vicbred program. So to HRV, subject to budget, and keep on rewarding our Victorian breeders, owners, trainers, drivers with world-class quality horses and world-class racing.
No, thank you very much, Nick. And please get in touch with HBV. I'll have the website down the bottom, because it's .org.au. I got it actually. Just said. Get in touch with those guys for any of your queries. You'll see any of the members there on sales days. If you want another understanding, it's in about 6 pages in there. I would have had the tiles up as well. There's plenty of information, but please, no question is dumb question or silly question.
No.
If you want to know how it works, come and see some people and you'll get an answer.
And I'll be floating around Saturday, Sunday, Monday. If you're uncertain, hit me up or hit up any of our committee, and we'd be only too happy to help answer questions.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.